We are continuing our lead up to the 2022 draft out in Las Vegas. Detroit Lions with that #2 overall pick on the clock. Joined now by Mike Renner, the lead draft analyst for PFF. I love all of the content you guys are putting out in regards to this draft. Mike, you guys got a couple of mock drafts that you've got in there, so I'd love to get your take on some of that. But first up, head coach Dan Campbell had talked with a local media, a really small group of us, just about a week ago here in April. And he said that he wants to develop players, that to sustain success, you've got to draft and then develop those guys. So from your take on the 2021 season, how well did the Detroit Lions develop their drafted talent?
Very well. I mean, they played more snaps from their rookie class than any team in the NFL. And that's what you want if you're a fan of a team that, is drafting #2 overall. If you didn't do well, you better at least be getting young guys out there and getting the best from them. And so I think they did a good job in identifying talent in the guy in Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think the defensive side of the ball, they got contributors there and even, some UDFAs and late rounders to where I think they're building something, and that's the key. Like they weren't going out and being big players of free agency. They're not, shooting for the moon in that, like some other teams that are in similar situations, blowing through their cap space. They know this is a long-term rebuild, and they're doing it and going about it the right way.
I mean, you've seen a lot of Aiden Hutchinson at 1 or 2, Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon at 1 or 2, but Trayvon Walker out of Georgia, his name keeps popping up there towards the top as well. So how deep are those defensive products at the top of the draft this year?
There's a ton. I mean, that is the deepest position in this draft class. You'll even be able to find a guy who could probably start in the second round if you're the Detroit Lions, which doesn't always happen for those guys who can get pressure off the edge. But the dream scenario would be the Jaguars drafting Trayvon Walker and Aiden Hutchinson, staying home in Michigan and going to the Detroit Lions. I think he's far and away the best prospect in this draft in terms of just certainty you feel translating to the next level. But I can see why Trayvon Walker is getting this hype. I mean, nowhere near the production of Aiden Hutchinson, but it is an athletic-based position. To get past a 6'7", 320-pound man, it helps to be able to move and have the tools that Trayvon Walker does. So it gives you this great starting point that guys like Rashawn Gary, like Myles Garrett, guys who are very productive NFL edge rushers who maybe weren't the most elite collegiate edge rushers that they have, and Trayvon Walker is even freakier than those guys. So it's more what he could be. And if you're going to draft him #2 overall, I'm not going to argue too much because that is a rare specimen for the position.
How bizarre is this draft this year with the unknown that is just on the horizon?
I think it's very weird, especially the quarterback position. I don't think we've seen just not knowing that there's going to be a quarterback near the top. The closest draft we've seen to that was 2017 when it was Trubisky and then Deshaun and then Patrick Mahomes. And obviously that ended up turning into a very good quarterback class, but no one really knew what to do with any of those guys. And a lot of teams that needed quarterbacks passed on those guys. So I do think it's going to be probably the hardest to predict draft in recent memory. Last year was very chalky at the top. This year, I think you're going to see a lot of craziness come draft day.
Okay, Mike, I want to play a little fill in the blank with you. Lions will be successful in this upcoming draft if they do what?
Take best player available. I don't think you want to pigeonhole yourself into a position, a need, a fit, whatever. As you said, Dan Campbell wants to develop talent. I don't think any position should be off limits. It's like, yeah, you have good tackles right now, but if you think Ike Ekwonu is the best player, go draft Ike Ekwonu and maybe play him at guard and let him develop for tackle in the future. If you think, you have some good edge rushes, you have the Aguara brothers, you have Charles Harris who just re-signed. But if you think Trayvon Walker is the best player at #2, draft that guy. I don't think you should be going and trying to address needs with certain picks. You just need talent. So I think that's how they'll be successful.
Okay, Lions will be successful next season if they do what?
That's a good question. I think if this offensive line becomes what it could be, and there's a lot of potential, whether it's Jonah Jackson, whether it's Penei Sewell, whether it's Frank Ragnow coming back from injury, that if everything gels and meshes, they might not have to lean on Jared Goff. They might be able to have a top 5 offensive line that can pound it down opposing teams' throats. So I think this looks profiles too, even if they weren't massive players in free agency and didn't quote unquote win the offseason. I think this looks like one of the more improved teams in the NFL just because of how many young players they have ascending right now. And especially, like I said, along that offensive line.